the topics that you choose, do you ever face any criticism or backlash from your videos that like you see like perhaps like in the YouTube comment section?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely so. Yes. Last summer, I did a two-part series on the JFK assassination. And this is, of course, a vector for controversy, but I was motivated to do that. Again, I had a main source that I was using, which was Vincent Bugliosi's book, Reclaiming History, which I had read years ago. It came out in, I believe, 2007. It's literally 1,700 pages, but I read it and was very, very impressed with just how cogently it laid out the facts, that it's absolutely beyond question that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone. There was no conspiracy. And that shocks many people, even to say that. So many people just, that's just beyond the pale. It's like, well, I mean, that's like asserting that gravity doesn't exist. I mean, that the conspiracy theory or some version of it has been so internalized in our society that it's almost heresy to speak of anything uh, anything else. So I did that video, and of course that has generated a lot of on a daily basis. I get so many abusive comments that which I just leave in the moderation queue mostly. But there's oh, you must be a CIA agent, stuff like that, and or I heard that there was a bullet that was found on the and like all these just non-facts, but like factoids that people believe or have come to believe in some. So there's lots and lots of that. Um, the Carlos Castaneda video has also been controversial, and I did that one in 2018. What's interesting about that is the main focus of the video is, as I said, about specifically the women who had followed him who disappeared in the wake of his death. And there was a really great source, a book written by a woman named Amy Wallace. She's now passed away, but she was kind of in the orbit of Castaneda's coven of witches, so to speak. And she was far enough detached from it that she didn't follow the others. And what probably happened, what we think, is they wandered into the desert of Southern California and committed ritual suicide. Is basically, that's the leading theory as to what happened to them. She did not do that and ended up writing this book about her life with Castaneda and her life in this cult. And that was really one of the main sources that I used for that video. The thing about Castaneda is that he wrote these very well-regarded New Age books in the late 60s, early 70s. He claimed and he wrote the first of these books when he was pursuing a doctorate degree in anthropology at UCLA, and this was in like 1968. So he claimed that he had met a Native American shaman somewhere in the desert of Mexico and had gone on these great spiritual journeys involving drugs and altered states of consciousness and this kind of thing. And he actually got a PhD in anthropology from UCLA, essentially fraudulently, because they asked him to produce his field notes and his sources, and he couldn't produce them because, of course, he had made it all up. There's also a cultural appropriation aspect to this. Castaneda was a quite accomplished con man. And then eventually, after his run of success with these New Age books that were published mostly in the 70s, then he became sort of this insular cult leader. So I tell obviously his story there, but most of the pushback on that video has been from people who loved his books and insist that he's not a con man. It's like, oh well, he's absolutely true. Everything he wrote was true, and you're just trying to tear him down. It's a shame that you have such a hole in your life that you feel like you have to attack, and all this kind of stuff. And they completely missed the point, because the point of the video is about the women who disappeared, and yet the vast majority of the pushback is about the claim, and it's absolutely supported, that Castaneda was a con man and that his experiences were not real, they were made up. but so many people are focused on him, and that's the big deal for them, is trying to refute uh, the debunking of Castaneda and the substance of what he wrote, and they don't even really get past that to talk about what happened to the women themselves. There's a few that do, but so most of the pushback has been about that. Um, what's very interesting is the sort of the comments on the Oak Island videos, because when they first started to get popular, it's apparently when the TV show was at the height of its popularity. I think it's called The Curse of Oak Island. I've actually
Yeah.
never seen it. It's such worthless. It adds nothing whatsoever to the study of Oak Island. Not that there's really anything to study. It's a scam. But when the show was popular, I would get a lot of pushback on that, and people say, "Oh, well, they found the flood tunnels, and you know, they they found Roman artifacts in the swamp that prove it, and it's proof that the Knights Templar were there, and all of this kind of stuff." In fact, on some occasion, I would get hate mail. I would get literally emails from people who were fans of the show, who would say, why are you tearing down, these people who are looking for treasure, and you got all your facts wrong, and this shows what a mockery our education system is. If they gave you a PhD and you don't know the first thing about it, and all of this kind of stuff. I don't get that anymore, because the show is now, I guess somebody told me recently that it's still on the air, which I thought it had gone off the air years ago. I didn't even know it was still on the air, but now, like, now that it's past its peak of popularity, basically people realize that it's just made up. So that's been very interesting, like sort of the pivot on that. And again, when I talk about like negative response, it's really only a fairly small minority of people who have pushed back against it, because even the JFK videos, which are the most probably the most controversial. I'm just looking them up now.
Hmm.
Um, but even the most controversial one has got 86% likes. So the vast majority of people who have seen this stuff do like it. It's just that there are outliers, people who have different opinions, who are generally more motivated to comment, I think, than many of the people who don't have a visceral reaction to it. So that's what I'd say about that.